Welcome back to Just One Question 2.0 or 2. Whatever. Anyway, we're in 2022 now. That's the good news. The bad news is we're still in a pandemic. And so the only consolation prize I could think of that was worth winning was to talk to my dear friend, Phyllis Fagell. Phyllis is a best-selling author. She's a speaker, although that's not her favorite thing to do. But I won't, well, maybe we'll ask her about that, maybe not. Anyway, her main work is as a school counselor in Washington, D.C. As a result of the amazing experience she had as a school counselor, she wrote a book, which is a personal favorite of mine, Middle School Matters, all about the questions that 6th to 8th graders are asking themselves and how they're answering them and what you can do as a parent to better help kids come up with good answers to those questions. She is, of course, as a result of all this, a therapist. She started as a journalist and has written many, many articles for the Washington Post and many other outlets. And so it's a great honor, Phyllis, to have you on this show. How are you doing, first of all?
I'm doing well, thank you. It's good to be back. It seems like a million years ago that we first recorded one of these, but it's always fun to have a conversation with you.
Well, thanks, Phyllis, and thanks for taking a few minutes out of your day putting middle schoolers back together. So my question to you really is about the ongoing or the never-ending pandemic, and how that affects the ways in which we communicate with our kids, amongst each other as grown-ups, but you must see every single issue possible in middle school, and you must have dealt with just about every imaginable issue. And a lot of that is often a reflection of the home life that the kids are experiencing. So they bring their challenges to school, at least I'm imagining this. And of course, things happen in school, but also a lot of it is a reflection at home. So what's your sense of our mental health in general, 2 years into the pandemic? How are we doing, and what advice do you have for us as a wise therapist for getting through the rest of the pandemic, however long that lasts?
So we're not societally doing particularly well right now. And some of that, when it comes to kids, is the level of emotion contagion. I think we just have been in this sustained state of stress and uncertainty, and now we're in the middle of Omicron. I'm actually at my school and I can hear students literally banging on my door. So
I shouldn't laugh, but God bless them. Yes.
But you know what? I'm happy to have this few minutes to talk about the fact that they need to bang on the door, because I think it's important to share with others that this is a time when we really do need to be not only tending to kids' mental health, which I will do as soon as we are done talking, but also really taking care of the adults who are raising kids or educating kids, counseling kids, because the kids truly only do as well as the adults in their orbit. And I've done a lot of work with parents all throughout my career, but I would say in the pandemic, I'm working more closely with parents than I have in the past, because it's much harder for them to kind of fake it till you make it. And kids really do need their parents to stay calm, to stay optimistic. That doesn't mean you're inauthentic. It just means that you're able to hold on to more than one emotion at a time. You know, you can be upset that we're in this state of uncertainty and grateful for what you do have, or time together, or insights that you've gained.
Oh, that's wonderful, and a good reminder to us adults. As somebody recently told me that the job of a parent or an adult or a grown-up just in society was to hold a space and allow the folks that you're supporting, the kids that might be in your orbit, to rail and rant and be emotional within that space, but not to necessarily react at the same level, right? To hold a larger space for them, allow them to be upset or angry or worried, and show them at some level that you are still an adult, still motoring along and doing the best you can and having some control over this. Yeah, I love that. I love that answer, and I really appreciate it. And I guess I just would follow up before the kids actually knock down your door and let you let you get back to work. So the thing that I loved particularly about your first book, Middle School Matters, was that you gave us the insight that so much of what the child would become later as an adult is happening, is getting defined, is getting worked out during this middle school age. That it's also a sign and a time of opportunity. We tend to think of the problems and the issues, and we need to put the kids back together sometimes. But it's also a time of huge opportunity. You get to define yourself, who you are. There's a little bit of that right now in the pandemic. Even as we feel isolated, even as we feel restricted, still, we've got a little time on our hands, many of us, to do some personal redefinition and some personal growth. And what advice would you give people who are trying to do that even while living through a pandemic?
I think it's important to be planning for the future, to have things that you look forward to. I think the monotony of the pandemic is part of what's contributed to people's poor mental health. I do think the number one most important thing that we can do when it comes to, and I hate the word self-care, but taking care of ourselves, is really staying connected to people who nurture us, to people who we feel understand us and will make us feel a sense of belonging. And I think the same is true for work and for career and for any kind of future planning. So I have had more conversations with colleagues or with friends right now about their career aspirations or the things they want to accomplish eventually, or how they want their light to shine, than I have at any other point in my career. And I think it's because people are craving a little bit of an adventure. They're craving having something to look forward to. And there is no need to deprive ourselves of that, even in the midst of all of this churn. And in fact, it might be that having had that time, people are doing a little bit of introspection about what really is important to them and what really makes them happy. And maybe we appreciate in a different way that that's something that we should be pursuing, or at least giving some serious thought to.
I love it. So don't lose hope, and don't lose a bit of that future focus, even while we feel trapped in this endless pandemic. Phyllis Fagell, everybody, always a treat to see you. Thanks for taking time out of what's obviously a busy day. Back to the kids, but thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.